All right. Thank you all for attending today's meeting. This is the kickoff of the Technical Advisory Committee as we look at implementing Senate Bill 25-002, in addition to some other technical details that we're going to want to work out during the TAC process. And I'm going to talk about a couple reasons why we are changing the administrative rules in compliance with the Senate Bill 25-002, regional building codes for factory built structures legislation that has been recently signed. So we're going to do some introductions. We've already kind of started that. We'll talk about the overview of the Technical Advisory Committee, ground rules for the public members, and then we will do a short introduction to Senate Bill 25-002, and then we'll look at future meeting dates. Executive session we've done. We're back to Technical Advisory Committee members and staff. What I want to do is go around real quick to through the Technical Advisory Committee and have you introduce yourself. I'll call on you. Sean, do you want to introduce yourself? You're the building official position for Climate Zone 4.
Yeah, Sean Roos, co-manager, Clayton Homes, Grand
All right,
Junction.
I was looking for Sean Rogan.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Believe me, Sean is we're gonna figure this one out. I am the planning and land use director for Los Animas County. Been in this position about 6 months now. I took over for Bob Lucero, who became a county commissioner. I'm very, interested. I think I will bring kind of an interesting perspective because we're the largest footprint county in Colorado. So we have high mountains and prairie. So we kind of, run the gamut of everything in these zones. So I look forward to bringing my perspective on that.
Thank you, Sean. Tim Pate, Climate Zone 5.
Hi, good morning. My name's Tim Pate, Chief Building Official, City and County Broomfield. I've been with Broomfield for a little better than 25 years in Louisville before that, and then as a contractor for quite a few years before that. So my background expertise is building code, and now recently, I'm not going to say energy code expert, but I've spent the last couple of years on the energy code board, so I'm familiar with that. And so I'm not representing Broomfield, but just bringing whatever my expertise is with my building code knowledge and from design standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We are still working on assignments for Climate Zone 6 and 7. We're working through a couple names that were recommended to us just to make sure that they're going to be able to participate. And then, so we're going to jump to James McLean with the licensed electrician slot.
Hello, everyone. My name is James McLean. I'm a state master licensed electrician. I hold other electrical licenses in other states. Currently, I'm with the Arapahoe County Building Department. I am the operations manager over here. I manage 803 square miles of inspections and inspectors. I'm excited to be here, and please ask any questions if you need to know anything about what I do or what I can provide. Thank you.
Thanks, James. John McGee with the licensed plumber spot.
Good morning, everyone. I'm with Dora, with the Colorado Plumbing Board. I've been working for Dora for 17 years nearly. Inspector in Northeast Colorado for about 10 years. Had a business previous to that, a small business out in Northeast Colorado as a plumber. So been around the business for a few years. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can give some good perspective on what we need, requirements and everything. So, and appreciate your time, and talk to y'all later. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Family built IBC residential is Charlie Chupp with Fading West. He was unable to attend today, but we do have Nate Peterson for family built IRC 1 and 2 family units. Nate, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Nate Peterson. I have kind of come up through the modular industry, so to speak, in Colorado. Started life out as a mechanical engineer. Owned a dealership for about the last 20 years in Colorado. So like Sean Roos, him and I talk a lot on dealership stuff, but also have been an installer like Matt Mitchell on this call as well. And now we are operating a factory out in Aurora, producing stuffing from the factory roll of the industry. So look forward to getting through all the great stuff we got in this bill. So.
Mark Lindsay with IBC Non-Residential. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Well, now I'm with Sunbelt Modular. I was with ICC and TA for 20 years as a plan reviewer. Now I'm a corporate plan reviewer for Sunbelt. Worked for the state of Arizona for 12 years. I think I've been on this committee for what, 12 years, Sam?
Longer than I have.
So been around here for a while, but it's good to meet the new faces and good to be back.
Thank you. And then we're going to go to Tracy Marshall Baker.
Hi, this is Tracy. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is Tracy Manchego Baker. I'm with Tiny Building Experts out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. We help people with understanding the rules, the laws, the codes, things of that nature, and placing tiny houses legally in Colorado, as well as other states across the U.S. We try to participate on, whatever teams that we can when it comes to code, rules, laws, zoning, things of that nature. So we're here just to keep learning and keep just voicing for the small little tiny builders.
Thank you, Tracy. Energy conservation, Robbie Schwartz is not able to join us today, it looks like. Factory built developer, Adam Berger.
Thanks, Sam. Hey guys, Adam Berger with Adam Berger Development. I've been doing development for about 25 years and been focused on modular for the last 10, building duplex, townhome, and most recently multifamily modular in the greater Denver MSA, both middle income, deed restricted multifamily, and affordable for sale duplex and townhome product, and excited to be a part of this. So thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Adam. Climate resiliency, Laurel.
My name is Laurel Varnell, and I'm the director for the Office of Housing Recovery, which oversees housing recovery and works on making housing more resilient. We also work closely with the Colorado Resiliency Office, and we have a new position starting with us that will be primarily focused on housing response and recovery as well. So thank you for including me. It's nice to be here.
Thanks, Laurel. Registered installer, Matt Mitchell with ProSet.
Yeah, I'm Matt Mitchell, co-founder and owner of ProSet Modular. I've been in the modular industry about 25 years, formerly had Craftmaster Custom Building System Manufacturing in Fruita, Colorado, and Highmark Development here in Telluride. Been building modular for a long time as a general contractor, now focusing on the installation side of it, mostly commercial modular installation.
Thanks, Matt. Registered seller, Sean Roos.
Yeah, Sean Roos, co-general manager with Clayton Homes, been in the manufactured modular housing industry for about 41 years. We're a general contractor, we do development, excited to be, on the tack. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. And emergency services and management, we're still working out some details on that slot also. Architectural, Dean?
Yeah, Dean Dalvett, founding principal of EV Studio. We're a full-service architecture and engineering firm that provides architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, civil, and landscape, surveying services of all flavors across the state and the region. And we have an exclusive studio designed specifically for offsite construction design of all flavors, from the very small to the very large. So,
Thanks, Dean. And then structural engineering, Justin Fluckey.
Yep, Justin Fluckey, structural engineer, licensed since 2012, licensed in 47 jurisdictions. Been on the committee for about 6 years now.
Thanks, Justin. And then organized labor is Ali Spray, Alejandra. She is stepping into that position, but is still working out some details. But Ali, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ali Alejandra Spray. I'm the CEO President of Hispanic Contractors of Colorado, a trade association that encompasses from large contractor to small minority, women, and veteran-owned companies designing construction in the Front Range area. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ali. And so we want to now jump to introductions for staff. Mo, do you want to kick us off?
Hey, good morning. Good to see everybody. Nice to meet the new folks on the Technical Advisory Committee. My name is Mo Miskell. I'm currently the Deputy Executive Director for the Department of Local Affairs. Prior to my role, the current role, I was, as I mentioned earlier, in the role Megan will be occupying here on July 22nd. And prior to that, I started with the Division of Housing, managing the modular program. That's how I got into this world in the first place, was overseeing the modular structures in the state of Colorado. Always thought it was the future, thought I could help, and hopefully we've done a lot of good things to further it over the years, and looking forward to working with you all to further even more, to make it a much more viable product in the state of Colorado. So thank you for your service, and looking forward to working with you guys.
Thanks, Mo. And then Megan Yonke. Megan, you mentioned, I think you kind of introduced yourself. You're in between transition from the governor's office over to, I'm not sure where you're going to sit in the office, but deputy director position in the Division of Housing. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just say the time for disruption in the housing market is now. We're seeing just extraordinarily high prices of on-site construction throughout the state and throughout the country. So very excited to get close to realizing the nationwide gains from modular and non-traditional construction methods, and to be a partner with you in furthering this technology. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Megan. Donnie Featherman.
Morning, everybody. My name is Donnie Featherman, Program Manager for the Building Codes and Standards section. So prior to this position, I was working as a building inspector and plan reviewer for Adams County. I got about over 15 years of experience in construction. Most of that experience is inspections, but a lot of the experience that I had prior to that was a lot of demolition and construction, but for military grade construction. So it wasn't necessarily meeting building code requirements. It was just getting shelters over everybody when needed. So but yeah, so I just oversee the program, make sure that whatever we come up with during these rulemakings, that everybody's following those processes, and then creating new procedures to make sure that they are meeting those minimum requirements.
Thank you, Donnie. I muted myself. I've got a military airstrip fairly close by, and sometimes when the jets take off, you get a little rumble at the house. So I was on mute for a second. I'm Sam Albrecht. I'm the director of the Office of Regulatory Oversight. I work in the Division of Housing. I have two programs that I work closely with. One is Building Codes and Standards, which is Donnie's program. The other is the Mobile Home Park Oversight Program. So I will be leading most of these TAC meetings to get us through the administrative rulemaking. And I think with that, we have captured all the introductions.
You, Michelle? She's still on?
Michelle, I let her go when we came back into this meeting.
Cool.
Michelle Goulet, who was on the original opening of the meeting, is one of our comms team specialists for community outreach. And so she works primarily with the Mobile Home Park Oversight Program, but occasionally I pull her into some of this fun stuff over in Building Codes and Standards. So overview of the TAC real quick. What I kind of wanted to mention here is pretty important is our statutory authority, and that is Colorado Revised Statute 24, 32, 3301 through 3329. And then specifically 3305 3A talks about the TAC, the makeup of the TAC, and the responsibilities of the TAC. So basically what the TAC does is we're responsible for coming up with administrative rules that we develop to present to the State Housing Board, who adopts those rules. So while statute is statute, there is the opportunity and to clarify statute and come up with rules to supplement statute. And that's what we live by in building codes and standards. We have a very comprehensive set of administrative rules, everything from the fee structure to the building codes that have been adopted. So it clarifies further the authority and the responsibilities that are in statute. So if you've not been through administrative rulemaking, it's a fairly complex, not complex process. It's a very regulatory process where everybody in the public has the opportunity to make comments and provide input into that rulemaking process. So that's what we're starting, especially as it relates to Senate Bill 25-002, the factory built structures for regional buildings codes for factory built structures. We just went through the different TAC positions. Previously, the TAC was 15. Senate Bill 25-002 expanded it to 19. And you saw some of the folks that we were able to carry over from the previous TAC into this one. There'll be great resources as we go through the rulemaking process. But for the new members on the TAC, if you've not served on the TAC before, please let me know if you would like a conversation about a specific item or the process, and I'm happy to do that for you.
And do you mind if I just jump in real quick?
Go ahead, Mo.
Just a reminder, hopefully you caught it all during the great presentation from the Assistant Attorney General on the open meetings law. Any communications amongst yourselves regarding Technical Advisory Committee business has to be a noticed public meeting. So anytime two or more of you talk about Technical Advisory Committee and its work, there has to be a noticed public meeting. If there's something you would like us to relay to other members outside of the meeting, do that through Sam and his team. So Nate, if you want other members to hear or consider something relevant to the work you guys are doing, just send it over to Sam, Donnie, and team, and they will get out to the rest of the folks. That way, we don't have to worry about open meetings law. So please keep that in mind. Try to exercise caution when sending out emails to each other. Obviously, if there's work you guys do together that has nothing to do with TAC, have at it. It involves the Technical Advisory Committee. Just send it to the staff and they will disseminate that information to all. Hope that makes sense.
It does, Mo, and that's a good reminder. For example, if the key point that Mo mentioned was to discuss TAC business. So if you you may have noticed that I'm doing everybody on the TAC in emails as BCCs. That's so there's not a respond to all that forms an illegal meeting, right? We will probably notice the fact that two or more TAC members may be attending the offsite construction expo that is in Denver, but there is no TAC business that will be discussed. We may also notice that two or more members may be attending the Rocky Mountain Homeowners Association meeting, whenever that is, but the TAC business will not be discussed. We just have to make sure that the perception is that there are not side meetings going on to discuss TAC business, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to protect the entire TAC from any perception of like that business is being done not in a recorded meeting. Yes, Megan?
I just wanted to say that Senate Bill 002 in particular almost didn't make it through the process just because there was so much concern that the public and local governments wouldn't have the ability to see what was going on and provide input into the process. So the legitimacy of the outcomes that we're working on as it regards that bill and other things really is predicated on us doing the right thing in terms of transparency. So I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Yeah, Megan, that's a good point. I appreciate that. We have a Building Codes and Standards newsletter with a list of about 4,000 names, and we will be sending those out with the public notice that makes sure that everybody has the opportunity to watch the stakeholder meetings and then or attend the stakeholder meetings. And then these meetings, of course, are going to be recorded and posted on the Factory Built Structures, or the Building Codes and Standards website. Yes, Adam?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just sort of following up on this thread around, the open meetings and, Nate and I, Matt, we're all doing business together, and Dean, and, we're obviously not going to talk about TAC related issues, at those meetings, but I guess just to sort of address this head on, should we be doing anything explicitly at those meetings when we set them up that these are no TAC related, matters will be discussed at these meetings? Because, we're talking on a pretty regular basis on the projects that we're working on.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Adam. And so we are going to come up with a conflict of interest policy, and I think there will be a blanket paragraph in there that says, because of the nature of the TAC and the nature of the industry, private developments, personal business, company business can be done, but that if the Technical Advisory Committee, if anything is coming up regarding the administrative rule process or discussions around Senate Bill 25-002, that any TAC member that is in a meeting like that says, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that. Let's focus on this project in Telluride, right? So that's the way we're going to split the hairs on that one.
Yeah, the simple answer is in the scenario you just provided, no, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to provide a disclaimer about that meeting you guys are having. You're going to have business meetings with each other. That's just normal. Just make sure you don't talk about TAC business at those meetings.
All right, thanks, guys.
If there are things that you want to discuss with others about TAC business as TAC members, we will do an agenda. We'll put out a draft agenda a week before the meeting in order. And if there's anything you want to add to those draft agendas, we'll put that on where we can have that discussion. Does that make sense? All right, cool. All right, so looking at this slide, as I mentioned, the TAC recommends proposed administrative rules to the State Housing Board for adoption, right? Interested parties in the public are welcome to provide written or verbal testimony for consideration. Our official administrative rules are 8 CCR 1302-14, and that's a hot link. I will send this email or this slide deck out to everybody after the meeting so that you can have the link to the administrative rules. For those of you that are fairly new to TAC and have not read those administrative rules, there are 37 pages of fun. So be sure and take a look at that, especially before the next meeting. That'll be the homework assignment for the new TAC members. We won't test you, but it makes sense if we're going to be talking about the rule changes to familiarize yourself a little bit with those official administrative rules. The process I mentioned is that we have to publish the draft rules for consideration in the Colorado Register in advance of a public hearing at the State Housing Board. We will have multiple stakeholder meetings that are not technically TAC meetings, but we will have stakeholder meetings on the proposed rules once we get to that draft stage. But like I've already said, and as we come up with those draft rules, any member of the public can attend a TAC meeting. and I'll talk a little bit about how best the public can address the TAC with their concerns as we look at the draft rules in just a second. Any questions on how how the TAC works? Okay. Ground rules, and I just mentioned this, ground rules for the public. We do really appreciate your input into the rulemaking process. Typing questions in the chat works, raising your hands works. I will be giving priority to the TAC members on a discussion point. Tawny's on this meeting, I think, too. She has been a valuable resource in providing input from other members of the Industry Trade Association to us, both at the TAC meetings. She's never been bashful about raising her hand or putting comments in the chat, providing written comments to me, and then providing testimony on behalf of the industry at the State Housing Board public hearing. So that's the process that works. Okay. And we'll have this slide in all the TAC meetings. All right, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. In regards to just the comment on putting your questions or comments into the chat, this came up quite often through our Energy Code Board, that with the requirement to have these all recorded, for the public. Some of the comments were going in, and some of the public were making comments being in the chat, not being part of the official recording, et cetera. So I'm not sure. Just thought I'd bring that up from our examples and issues from the Energy Code Board. Thanks.
Tim, that's a good point. When we hit record, we actually get 3 data files. We get the video, we get the chat history, and we get another file, which I'm not sure what it is, and we get all those. So we have access to those. Did the Colorado Energy Office start publishing did they start posting the chat menus based on that discussion?
Not that I saw, no. Okay. So I'm not sure how Adam dealt with that, Adam Berry.
Okay, I might reach out. I might talk to Adam on how they handled that. And I'll run it by the attorney too, if the chat needs to be also posted with the video.
Thank you.
Thank you. Allie?
So Sam, I'm gonna use being the newbie here. In case a member of the public contacts one of the TAC members outside a meeting, how do we engage with them? Do we copy the staff in order to make sure that there's clarity, or we ask them to present that to the next meeting?
So great question, Allie. I would say that you can engage with that member of the public about, the administrative rules that we're looking at and the development of those rules, as long as you're not involving another TAC member. And in fact, if you and I and a member of the public wanted to get on the call and talk about something, we could do that, because technically I'm not a member of the TAC, I'm a staff person. But we do expect the TAC members here to kind of represent the segments that they're talking about. So, if Adam has a discussion with another developer about what's going on with the TAC, that does not need to be published or recorded.
Yeah, I would add to that. Just remember, you can't speak on behalf of the TAC, right? You can't speak on behalf of all 19 members. And sometimes somebody might be wanting you to do that, a reporter, for example, and such. I think the safest thing to do is just direct them to Sam, right, for communication, especially as a reporter. Definitely direct them to Sam. I doubt a reporter will contact you about any of this work, but just in case it happens, please direct them to Sam. But if it's something like, are you involved in the technical advisory committee? What do you think about that work? Just asking you for your opinions on things. You can totally have that conversation. And as Sam mentioned, as long as there's another TAC member not present, it's okay to have that conversation about the TAC. But my recommendation is, if it's something more formal, right? I would just recommend forwarding it to Sam for handling.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on TAC operations before I jump into 25002? All right, so let's jump into this. Senate Bill 25002 is regional building codes for factory built structures. 19 sections, 18 pages. Megan could probably, well, I'm not sure if she could quote it, but she's probably had nightmares about 19 sections of changes to statute being pushed through.
I remember when our amendments went through and they were 50 pages of amendments, if you remember, Mo. So, yep, we're here for it.
Well, now we're to the fun part, and that's how we best take what legislators gave us and implement that into the administrative rules. This is just a very rough cut of what's in the bill. We will be developing a matrix of the exact changes to that and the related rules that may need to be considered changed or new rules need to be put in. And so we'll try to get that in preparation for the next meeting. And then there's a lot of staff work in the bill too that we're still kind of working through. This clarifies the second bullet on this slide. It clarifies responsible parties in the state. With 320 jurisdictions and a lot of different local building departments, there was sometimes concerns about who was responsible for what hookup. This helps clarify that with the DORA agencies, electrical, plumbing, fire prevention and control. And so that was put in there. Also, another couple of sections deal with the counties and municipalities may not exclude factory built structures or impose more restrictive requirements. So that was clarification in parts of statute that we don't control, but we want to make sure that everybody is aware of that, that has been put out there too. So we do need to look at a communications plan around the entire Senate Bill 25-002 on outreach as we implement not only the administrative rules, but if it's other changes to statute. And we're working with our county and municipal parties, the Colorado Municipal League. We're working with CCI, the Colorado Counties Incorporated, and CCAT, Colorado Counties acting together to make sure that the municipal and county officials know that the changes have been signed and are now part of the law. One of the things that RMHA and some folks have been asking for a while, we were also able to get into this bill, and that allows for installers to be persons or businesses. Previously required the installer to have his name, his own insurance, and his own bonding. What we have found, though, is as we're looking at more and more factory built structures coming into the state of Colorado, that a business may want to have 2 or 3 registered installers, all covered with the same insurance certificate and the same bond. And so that required a statutory change, and that was done. So that will require a little bit of rulemaking, which should be fair. It's going to go into what I'm going to call the first round of rulemaking in just a second. The next bullet allows for this is something that the industry has been asking for, allows for third parties to perform final plan reviews and the division to conduct audits. So we are going to be working on an audit process that once we have looked at a couple of third-party agencies, plan submittals, manufacturers' plan submittals that have previous third-party approval. We're going to audit some of those, and then they should be able to approve in the future. And then we'll have to decide as a TAC, what's the right number to audit on an annual basis? Is it 1 out of every 5? Is it 1 out of every 10? Is it with a minimum number per year. We'll work out some of those details in the TAC and then that will allow manufacturers to begin and complete units based on a third-party agency that has successfully met the audit schedule. The next bullet directs the implementation of local government inspection requirements and registration responsibility accountability requirements for all parties, including general contractors. It also makes it very clear that licensed contractors in a local jurisdiction where they have a licensed contractor program do not have to register with the program, but it does still require them to have some accountability and some education that we're going to put together for them. And then the last one, the big piece, this is again, an industry ask. This directs the development of the regional building codes. What we want to do is to design, as the manufacturers know, and some of the TAC members know, every set of plans that come into the state of Colorado or from any of the manufacturers in the state of Colorado have to have an address specific requirement that it meets the local design criteria: wind load, snow load, sprinklers load, not sprinkler load, but sprinkler requirements of wildfire mitigation, fire suppression. And so what we're hoping to do with this is to allow the manufacturers to have a plan approved for multiple areas, multiple jurisdictions, where we have set up the design criteria to be the most restrictive in that region. So maybe it is an Eastern Plains building zone that covers Adams County, Arapahoe County, Elbert County, Lincoln County. Maybe it is something that covers the higher elevations. Maybe it is something that looks at the western slope. We're not sure what that looks like yet. It might be 4, it might be 6, it might be 8. One of our concerns is that we don't want to require the manufacturers to overbuild, and I equate overbuilding with cost increase in order to meet a regional zone for development. What we're hoping it will allow the manufacturers is, they can have one set of plans done for 10 jurisdictions, 20 jurisdictions, right? And then they can kick those out as they want to on their production line. So it will shorten time and increase efficiency. That's the big part. Any questions? And I'm going to ask Mo and Megan if they want to add anything to that I may have left out of this very, very abbreviated 25-002 overview.
Yeah, one of the things, sorry, Dean, you get your hand up, go ahead.
Yeah. So with that, Sam, will individual modules be decoupled from specific site addresses under this regional context, or will there still be a site address obligation for a specific module before it can go on the line?
I think I understood your question to be, there'll be a set of design criteria for that region. So if it comes in for region A and there's 10 jurisdictions in region A, it can go straight to the locals, right? And you can start construction.
Yeah, the vision, Dean, was that on some kind of format that you would identify the region in which you are building that material to allow you to build for inventory.
Perfect. Thank you.
The one thing that I was going to say, Mo, I know you were talking, but we had some extravagant fights about this highest common denominator question. There are a number of jurisdictions throughout the state who felt that this regional process would have lower standards than they have. locally. This may be the case that a jurisdiction is wildly out in front of any others in their kind of logical region. And we have to kind of look at this group to think about whether that municipality belongs in its own region or in a small group of them, right? Because it's not our goal to levy exorbitant costs on everyone in a region. It's to be smart about how we're allocating the regions while also trying to meet locals' desire to have higher standards for their buildings where applicable.
Yeah, the other thing to add that's missing on the slide, Sam, I realized is, and it's actually something that Charlie had brought up, Eric, in the past meeting, is the electrical and plumbing requirements. And this also dovetails with some of what Megan shared earlier. The original draft of the bill basically said anything modular, even electrical and plumbing, fire suppression systems, all of that is with the state program that you guys are all involved in right now. There was a lot of back and forth and some amendments that were made to clarify with regard to electrical and plumbing. Fire suppression, we did keep that intact. For electrical and plumbing, there was some give and take there. And the clarification that was provided is anything to do with the structure itself being built off site and being finished on site is with this program. And its installation is with this program. But those site connections that are done are still with DORA Electrical and Plumbing Board. And so one of the requirements here is we can clarify the stuff that's under our jurisdiction versus theirs. And so there's an opportunity there to dialogue further with DORA about that. So that's one piece, that's element that's missing here. It's an important piece as well. And then, of course, with us taking on all the rule requirements for fire suppression systems, we got to figure out a more effective way of doing it. We can't do it ourselves, right? Effectively across the state. So we still need to partner with local governments and the Division of Fire Prevention Control. We just get to dictate what those requirements are versus them, right? But we definitely want to still partner with them to get those things inspected and passed on site in order to ensure safety. So those are two elements that really will require a lot of thought, collaboration, and work as well.
Two more things really quickly. I hope this is okay. The original form of the bill had the state taking over above grade structures on site as well. So think your garages, your foundations, etc., to the extent they're above grade. And through the negotiation process found that to be really way too onerous. But this group is tasked with looking at ways that we can make the interface between off-site built structures and on-site elements more efficient. So be keeping that in mind as well. It's not a formal study, but it is a call for feedback on how we can make that more efficient for the future.
Thank you both. Dean, you've had your hand up first, and then I'll go to Sean.
Yeah, I just circling back to the regional building codes. I had heard previously. I just want to confirm that if you're a manufacturer or design team working on a project, you can elect to use the regional building codes, but you don't have to. Is it an optional platform where you could still submit a specific addressed project under the code of a specific jurisdiction in the state the way we used to do it, is the question.
So that's a good question, Dean. And I think we need to have some tact discussions on that. I don't know that I have a concrete answer to give to you. I'd like to hear why that would still be preferable for the manufacturers or the design team to have it site specific when it can be, if it's not more cost, if it doesn't require any overbuilding, I'm not sure why we would want to go that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess if there is a jurisdiction that has a lesser requirement than the region in which it lives, there may be some benefit to that. It probably more benefit to the manufacturer than anybody else, but I was just curious about that because I'd heard rumor about that before, that this would be an optional thing. And then obviously the corresponding alternative to that is, what about that one jurisdiction that is just so over the top on their requirements do they drive that entire region, or do we cut them out and they're just sort of standalone as their own AHJ that people start avoiding, I guess? How that works.
Yeah, Dean, those are great examples of scenarios that are possible. We just haven't gotten there yet. We need to have those discussions to determine where we're going to land. I would think, just speaking hypothetically here, without more information to consider to make informed decisions, that if there is a jurisdiction that's so extreme, right, it doesn't make sense to make others follow suit as the most stringent requirement for that region, right? Hopefully we won't get to that. That's why these conversations with local governments can be incredibly important, to learn why a jurisdiction has such extreme requirements, right? And to work with it to make them more reasonable and to ground it with similar jurisdictions in that area, right? But at the same time, for the lesser jurisdictions that you mentioned, you don't really want to open it up to them and then create this confusing landscape either. The whole goal is to simplify this as much as possible, right? So we can get to 10 or less jurisdictional requirements, the better. If one of them or two of them are extreme cases, fine, right? But let's not try to make it a situation where we're going to accept a whole bunch of lesser requirements in a region or really accommodate as many stringent requirements as possible. We got to find something in the middle that really works best for all.
For sure.
And that's why I think one of the first steps that we want to do, Dean, is take a look at all the jurisdictions requirements and get them in a table and look at them side by side and see what makes sense and what doesn't, right? And then maybe even go to some of those super stringent design criteria and say, why is your wind load 50 pounds more than everybody that surrounds you? Is it because of your elevation? Is it because of what are you using as the basis for that? And would you consider adopting this one, right? So
yeah, and the other thing real quick too, I forgot to mention, I know Sean and Tim are patiently holding their hands.
Yeah.
What makes it more complicated too are those jurisdictions that have multiple requirements, because as Sean pointed out earlier, you can get a county with different regions, right? And they have different requirements for each region within the county. So the model we may end up with may not be a regional approach where it's the whole county, right? Lumped into a specific region because of that geographic diversity. So this is going to be the most complicated piece of this whole thing. It's going to require a lot of thought and, quite frankly, help. Right. So if you guys can think of resources out there, one of the beauties about the Senate Bill 2 is we've got funding to contract out for third-party work to help us with this process. So are there any experts out there that can help us, take a closer look at Colorado and come up with a process that works best for us? We'd love to engage in those conversations. I had Mark Lindsay working on this on the side for me while the bill was going through legislative session, and we really didn't have any luck finding that vendor that could help us through this. But if there are others here who know of folks or entities that can do this type of work, we'd love to have that conversation to really assist us and have those conversations with all the jurisdictions about how they got there and why, and how we can account for that in a much simpler structure. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, you guys have kind of gone over some of my big question was because I've got Kim, Colorado, which is super plains, huge drop in elevation, and then I've got Weston, Colorado, that is high in elevation and all in the same county. So I kind of just was wondering if there was plans of splitting counties or if it was going to be kind of just county specific. And I think you guys have kind of answered all of that.
Thanks, Sean. Very good points. And I love Kim, Colorado. I get down there once a year or so. Tim Pate?
Yeah, thank you. And to overlay a couple of more items that the board will need to be kind of looking at with regional building codes is 2 other state mandated codes that we're now dealing with. And that's the state energy code and the low carbon code that is going to be officially approved by September 1st. And there's some requirements for when the Division of Housing has to adopt that. I think the electric ready that's already been taking place. And then to overlay that, the wildland urban, the WUI code that is, well, I guess Friday is going to be the last public meeting, and then July 1st, it's supposed to be published. And how that's going to, both of those interplay into regional building codes because of the fact of, and for an example is City County of Broomfield, based on the current WUI map, I've got a whole center section right almost in the middle of my city that is in the high zone. We don't know exactly how that came about because it's not anywhere near open land. But with that being the case, for doing that, you're going to have to take a look at that WUI map. We are, I guess, and see how that might interplay into not just the wind and the snow. So you have to overlay WUI requirements for wildland urban. And so that'll be another part of the challenge to come up with some good regional building codes that are going to make sense and not overbuild, because I think the whole focus of this bill was to, just like the energy code was affordability. And if you start going the other way, you're going backwards from what the whole and the premise of this bill, at least the way I understood it. So I just wanted to throw that. I know we got a lot of meetings, I'm sure, on regional building codes that will be bringing up particular questions on that at that point. Thanks.
Tim, I'm glad you brought those two up. We've been talking with the WUI implementation team a little bit about factory built structures, and actually provided them some definitions and some other things to go into that draft WUI code. So, and then the energy code and the carbon code, you're absolutely right. We've got to integrate those into. Like Mo said, it's not going to be easy. But we'll get there. We'll get something, I think, that can, I still see several possibilities that we can work on to get there. Dean?
Sorry to keep peppering with so many questions. One thing that also runs through my mind when we're talking about regional codes for the state, would the regional codes that we're going to be creating constantly need to be updated to keep pace with local AHJ code updates? Because that's always in flux, right?
If they change the design criteria, it's a good point, Dean, and I don't know that I've thought through that yet. If they're changing a local design criteria based on something, I think they will need to let us know about that. The base building codes, they've always had to adopt our building codes, like the 2018 IRC, when there were people on 2021.
And I can simplify this one.
Design criteria part that's going to be tough. Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, we supersede them at this point.
Yes.
With this bill, we supersede them. And especially when we come up with the regional code requirements, they go into effect on or before July 1st of 2026. Once that comes into effect, it's the state program that controls it. Any changes that they contemplate that would impact factory built structures would have to come through us. They couldn't just do it on their own. So for now, it's a bit of the Wild West, if you will. Once July 1st hits, it's a different ballgame. It has to come through us.
Right.
Yes, and that is
For factory built structures. Obviously, for any site built stuff, they can do whatever they want at any point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the trick there is buildings are often a hybrid, especially large multifamily projects are part factory, part local, a podium building, for example. So that will be a little bit of a sticky wicket.
Absolutely. And that's why the coordination, collaboration with local governments is paramount in all of this. The closer to the more we can work closely with them, the better it is for everybody on the inspection side in particular, right? Understanding that factory built model, who has jurisdiction, but how they can assist in ensuring that they're safely deployed in their jurisdiction is huge.
Tracy, you had a question in the chat about tiny homes. We're not changing Colorado statute. Tiny homes will still be 400 square feet and less. All right, I'm going to jump into the final couple.
Just real quick, just to answer Tracy's question though, Tracy, that would require a statutory change, which this body doesn't have the authority to do. So if anybody wanted to increase the square footage contemplated by the definition of a tiny home in Colorado law, they'd have to run a bill to change that.
Correct. So I talked a little bit, this next slide just has a little more detail on developing those regional codes. And it covers a lot of what we've already talked about, and you guys are experts on this. We'll look at the language here very specifically out of the statute and make sure that we come up with the best regional codes that we can. Just a little more information on the process internally from the staff perspective. We did get a little bit of funding on this to help us go outside. We are going to be looking at a project manager to help guide us through some of these discussions. And we are working on an RFP for submittal to the industry, to anybody that might be interested in bidding on helping us come up with the correct regions based on the criteria that we have. And again, I mentioned we're looking at running 2 rulemakings. Here's the rationale there. Mo mentioned the January 1, 2020, July 1, 2026 date for the regional codes to be done. There's other things in the statute that we can do before that. One I mentioned was the installer that can be businesses or persons. So we want to tackle that. Some of those easy things right up front. It'll also allow the new TAC members to go through a rulemaking process and see how that works. But we can't lose sight of the end goal of having the regional codes done. And we'll put together a calendar on when we have to have that draft done so that it is published in the Colorado Register to meet that July 1, 2026 date.
Just to add there, Sam, we also are required to do a report out to the legislature during the legislative session of next year. And of course, have the Secretary of State backing into like deadlines that this group has to meet. So it is not July that this group has to be done and dusted. It's quite a bit earlier.
Okay. Yeah, let's visit on that. If we have to get it done between now and December 31st, that's
Not December 31st, but it is during legislative session. So
Okay.
I think we talked about the March timeframe, I believe.
But
Yeah.
if we publish the draft rules in April, then we can do the report to legislators. Right? Okay. Go ahead, Mo.
Never mind.
Okay. All right. I will be sending out invites to all these meetings now that we've got everybody here. We do not require 100% attendance, but we hope that you can make as many of these as possible. If there's any questions or conflicts, once I get the meeting invites out to everybody, please let me know. And if we can tweak some of these later out meetings, we'll try and do that. And again, I'm sending this slide deck to everybody here in just a second. Donnie?
Yeah, I just had a question for, I guess, you, Megan, and Sam, or you, Megan, and Mo. I think one of the issues that we've been running into with in the past, I'm not sure how we might be able to clarify it more in rule, or how it would even affect the structure itself. But the charging of plan review fees on structures that are going to these local jurisdictions that are charging fees for the actual plan review. Is that something that we might be able to do during this rulemaking as well? Or in my head, I'm thinking we have the different climate zone representatives here that cover those regions, and every jurisdiction should be under a region where maybe we can have a process that they can educate those regions and those building departments on the fee requirements as we're going through this process, so that it's more aligned with what's already in statute with the charging of fees. I think that this would probably be a good time to address that, since we are talking about regional areas for certain requirements for these structures.
Donnie, I'm not opposed to that. If we, it is a clarification that I've thought about that we need to clarify in the rule, and maybe we propose that rule for the TAC for consideration. We do know that
I don't think it's anything you need to clarify in the rule. I think it's an education outreach element. I think that's what probably Donnie's trying to get to. But I don't really, and it could be part of the regional aspect of this work, but really it's separate and distinct. And for those of you who are not aware of this, a prior statutory change made it clear that a local jurisdiction could not, shall not charge fees duplicating efforts already done by the state. In other words, if the state, and all plan reviews are through the state, right, for modular construction. So local jurisdiction could not redo that work and charge for it, or not do that work and charge for it, right? Which is complicated for some jurisdictions because their whole plan review and inspection fee sometimes is just lumped into the cost of the construction. So really the effort, the ball is on the court of local jurisdictions to come into compliance. Now, we don't audit that, we don't enforce that. Somebody could take them to court over it if they so desired. So we could spend time as part of this process educating them on that unique requirement that's been in the books for several years now. Now, with that being said, an element of this bill is to get local jurisdictions more involved on the inspection side of things, and they can charge for work that they do on behalf of the state program that we're not doing, right? And so that's an opportunity for them to generate revenue by helping us with the inspection side of things, as long as they're doing it in compliance with our requirements, not their own. So there is a lot of coordination, collaboration needs to happen. And to Donnie's point, education and outreach is paramount in all of that to make sure we're all on the same page. But that's not a new requirement in this law. That's the requirement that's been around for several years now.
Thank you, Mo. Anybody else have any questions? Well, I want to take a minute and thank you all for participating in this. I totally recognize that you guys are volunteers. I understand how important your time is, and when you give that to a project like this, I am super appreciative and looking forward to working with you all in the next year.
Yeah, before you all sign off, I want to echo what Sam is saying. And first of all, so glad that the attorney didn't scare you off with all the crazy requirements that a state employee or anyone doing state business on behalf of the state has to go through. Please don't let that scare you off. A lot of us have been doing this for decades. And while they are cumbersome requirements, they're there for a reason. Just remember that. As Megan mentioned earlier, transparency is going to be huge in this process. And we want everybody to make sure that they felt heard, but also that they have a good insight into how you, the Technical Advisory Committee, are working and arriving at your recommendations, which will then go to State Housing Board, which is an even more transparent process before any of these requirements become potential rules. So really thank you. And of course, thank you for all the time. 2 meetings a month between now and the end of March is a lot to ask of you, but we really appreciate your investment in time, because by doing that, you're going to really make a difference for Colorado, right? And those trying to do business in our state, and of course, those that are ultimately purchasing your products at a lower cost point, and making sure that they're still safe products, right? So it's going to be a lot of hard work, but looking forward to working with you guys on it, through it. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out to Sam or any of us on the administrative side if you have any questions or concerns about the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Mo. All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording now.